Does the American dream still exist? Next on Food for Thought. Hi, I'm Jodi, the host for Food for Thought, and thanks for watching. Today I'm joined by Frank Massabni, the president and the CEO of Cool Tropics. Welcome to Food for Thought.
Thank you so much for having me here, Ms. Rissy. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I've been looking forward to this for over a year.
Yeah, so we go way back, but I think today, it's going to be so important to share with the viewers a little bit about your journey. I'm amazed every time I talk to you, every time I work with you, everything that you do for our students in Anne Arundel County. And I think it's just so important for us to highlight who you are, where you came from, and tell us all about this journey. Like, when did you come to America? When did you come to the United States?
You know, my family and I came to the United States when I was 16 years old, and I didn't speak a word of English, and that was 1989. And everything I'm going to share with you today, I owe it to our beautiful country here, the United States of America, for allowing me to have the things we have today. And it's an honor for me to be here. It's also a duty of us to pay it forward as well.
And I think you often say that to me, that you're here to pay it forward, right? You're here to make the experience for our students so great, right? And not only is your product that you provide us and that we buy fantastic, but it's that extra piece of love. It's that extra care that you do and that you do so well, you know, with your organization. So you come, you're 16, barely any English. Like, where do you go from there? How do you get from a 16-year-old to where you are 30 years later?
So the best part about being a 16-year-old, and you're going to a country that does not speak your language, and you're not in a city that speaks, you have a lot of people from your native country. So you either sink or swim. Mm-hmm. And we're survivors. As human beings, we are survivors. So I was junior in high school, and I remember, the first year, it was, being in the first day of class, I'm like, man, I don't understand the language. I understand numbers. Math was always my specialty. That came easy for me, but I didn't understand the language. So English as a second language really helped me a lot. Watching television at the time really helped me a lot. And then what came after that, I highly recommend for anyone trying to learn English, is reading the newspaper. These are great writers we have in the newspaper. I know it's people on their phones all the time, but you can do it electronically too. Mm-hmm. And what I love that I tell all the time is the American expressions we have. I'll never forget the first time I heard that something cost an arm and a leg. So, if you're trying to learn another language, Spanish, French, any other language, in your head, you're translating word for word what that means. Yeah. And okay, cost, that means you can buy, sell something with it, an arm and a leg. I'm like, wow. We actually sell arms and legs in America. No wonder why it's the greatest country on earth,
And that's funny because, who would really think of that? But we do. We have so many phrases just like that, right? And I love that you say, like, the newspaper, and there still are. I mean, my mom is still a diehard, right? She still wants paper newspaper, and she's reading through it every day. But what a great way. How about radio? Did radio play a part of it for you? Like listening to radio? I guess watching TV was probably more prevalent. But
yes, radio, I loved the songs. Back in the 80s, you had Michael Jackson and Madonna and George Michael and all those. And I loved Elvis Presley, and I loved, You Go Back and the Beatles and all that. I didn't understand the word they were saying, but I loved the music.
And you probably, did you know the songs in English? Like, my daughters both sing Spanish songs, and I find it interesting because I mean they both took Spanish and they can speak Spanish, but they know all the lyrics in Spanish.
Right. That's right. So, I love Spanish songs too, but I don't understand the language. So I enjoyed the beat. I enjoyed how I moved to the beats. I remember being a shy teenager before I came to America. I would close my bedroom door and learn how to dance to Michael Jackson Thriller or Michael Jackson Billie Jean in front of the mirror, because I wanted to, if I met a cute girl back when we were kids, I want to be able to dance and, ask her to dance,
Could you do the
moonwalk?
The moonwalk.
Oh my God, that's not really. I mean, that's it.
We're gonna have to do that.
That's right. So I came as a junior in high school.
Okay.
And my initial thought was I wanted to be in computer and computer science. And my father was always a business owner overseas. So I grew up around someone that had the entrepreneur mind, how he also treated people and how he always treated people with respect. That was, I'm like, wow, okay, like this is really cool. It didn't matter if that person was the owner or the janitor or everything in between. My dad always treated them with respect. So that resonated with me. His negotiating style resonated with me. Of course, you have to be true to who you are. You can't try to copy everyone else. So I remember going for computer science my first year. And then I said, I love people too much, way more than computers. And it'll be a waste of talent. I didn't realize that back then. I'm saying that now. If I stayed in computers and not been in something that I can interact with people. Mm-hmm. And I love our community for that because we have a beautiful community for that. So I immediately, for my second year in college, I switched to business. At the time it was international business. And I moved universities. And so here I am only in the US for 2 years, went to college the first year, switched another university to go to business the second year. So I'm like moving around a lot. And by the end of the second year in university, I felt like I needed to contribute to the family and I needed to add value to the family, and my father would say, he wasn't living here. We all were, but him. And he's like, I'm not making money in American dollars. Like you guys spending money in American dollars. My sister was going for dental school. Okay. She was already a dentist, but she was getting her dental equivalency. My other sister was going for a hygienist. And so I felt like, okay, I need to do something. So I want to do something on the side in business to help with the family a bit at the time. So, and then an opportunity presented itself, and against my mom's wishes, I left actually school after the second year in university. School came easy to me. It was not an issue to be in school. I could have easily finished there, but I wanted to start a business. I always thought about what is it going to be? And I never, unless it hits you, sometimes you're constantly thinking, am I going to be in this industry or that industry? And then the doors just open, and the more you're out there, there's an old saying, the harder you work, the luckier you become. I believe the more traveled we are and the more open we are to the world, the more doors will open to you and opportunities open to you as well.
Right. Yeah. So you have two sisters. Right. So, and it's kind of interesting because I think just knowing you 30 years later, right, or knowing you now in your business hat, you're saying a lot of the same things, and I think it's things that are so important for viewers watching, for families, right, to respect. I think it's key to build those relationships, right? I think it's amazing when I think back of what my mom and dad taught me, right?
Yeah.
My dad was always the chatty one and building relationships, and he was a Coca-Cola driver, right? So he was driving retail organization or retail chain stores, meeting people, talking to people, but everybody knew him and everybody knew what he represented. And he was always true to himself.
You gotta be true to yourself. You can't be somebody else.
Right. It's exactly, what you do and what I see with you now. And it's interesting that it did start so long ago. And, so you say this to your mom, but what does your mom say? Is she like, you know what, Frank, I don't think we should do this?
That's right. That's right. She actually said that. She said, I don't think that's a good idea. And my father said to her, I don't want to be in his way. I don't want my son one day to look back and say my mom and dad stood in my way. If he fails, he fails and comes back to school. If he succeeds, he succeeds. I want him to have an opportunity. And I actually met with my university professor, and he said, Frank, your grades are great. You have great grades here. And he said, I've always wanted to own my own business. I didn't know what. And I've never took a chance. And you're looking to take a chance. So when he was supportive, I went back. I'm like, all right, my professor's supportive. He knows who I am. And that was actually eye-opening for me. And then you start a business at a young age. I was 20 years old. And I started a company, and I moved down from Boston. Mm-hmm. Massachusetts and Boston was home for me when I moved to the United States of America. And I moved to Long Island, New York. And I didn't know a soul in Long Island. And if this is Long Island, I put my finger in the middle and said Huntington. And I drove down as a 20-year-old kid asking, where should I live? And we couldn't afford much. Really, we couldn't afford much. And we were selling frozen drinks out of blenders. And 6 months later, I'm like, never mind trying to help the family. I can't even pay my rent. Mm-hmm. Something had to change. It was really humbling, really, to say, okay, I can't, this is not scalable. And I realized to have enough volume, we needed high volume accounts. And those accounts are not going to sit there and blend one drink at a time.
Right.
So we needed machineries. And my father was always a business person that imported products and, from Italy. So these machines came from Italy. So we started importing these machines from Italy to the United States.
And were they a commercial blender? Or what was the machinery? Because I just kind of, and I think viewers are probably thinking the same thing. Like, we're home and we have our blender, right?
That's
so you make a smoothie or you make a fruit slushy, you're putting in your ingredients, but you're only getting maybe a cup or 2 cups or 3 cups.
That's right.
So what was your machinery that came over from Italy?
So if you remember, back in the mid-90s, we had these frozen drink machines. They were visual, whether they're 2 heads or 3 heads, and they turned. That's right. And you do that. We did these for the schools, but we didn't start with schools. That's not where our journey started. We started in restaurants and cafes and beach accounts, Long Island, and then we wanted to grow into high volume accounts. So we started doing, movie theaters and the zoo and concert places. And then you fast forward in business for 10 years, and 10 years later, I'm like, okay, I am so weather dependent. If the weather is good in the summer, we do well. If the weather is not good in the summer, we don't do well. And 10 years in business is a long time. To say I'm so dependent on that. So I can't control the weather. So I said, okay, what can we control? And I remember till today, my dear friend, Nancy Padron, she was the first K-12 school person I ever met. And she saw my product. She goes, have you ever thought about being in schools? And I said, Nancy, I don't know where to even start. She goes, why don't you come see me? She ran a big district in Long Island, New York. And we became friends, and she became a customer all the way until she retired.
Wow.
20-something years later, always she retired, and she's a dear friend. She's a consultant to us. We go to her for advice and consultation, and she said, let's take a look at the K-12. So I remember in 2003 saying to myself, if I can't control the weather, schools are year-round, 9 months out of the year, not in the summer. That's usually my busy season, so this can offset my summer business. So the schools came out of that, and we decided to focus on schools. And what happened there was really cool, because when we looked at it, I said, okay, we need to be different. I never in my business competed on price. Some people do that, and they do that well, and that's okay. They have to be true to that. That was never what we want to do. We want to compete on experience. We want to compete on something that no one else had. We want to be as innovative as possible. Jodi, back then, 2003, 2004, no one had 100% juice, no sugar added slush for the machines. It was either 10% juice or 50% juice. California was the first state to mandate 100% juice, I think by 2005 or 6, somewhere in there. But we created it in 2004. Schools didn't even want to pay the extra dollars for it. And I remember our first big break was winning Airmark schools exclusively nationwide. We became the exclusive provider for all of Airmark schools nationwide. And that gave me my first major break into the schools after being in schools. And that really helped our growth. And then we got into all the Compass schools nationwide and Sodexo schools. And that really took us to, we started to double our business, triple our business, quadruple our business. And I think where I'm at today is we went through some tough times after that. And the tough times actually made me a better CEO and made us a better company. Because when things are going easy, anyone can do it. You can throw money at the problem, whatever the issue is. When things are really tough and it can bring you to your knees, that you can actually be out of business, that's when you really have to dig in. And if you can, the old saying, if it doesn't break you, makes you stronger, I'm a living proof of that. Because there's a couple of times I should have been out of business. And I refused to go home and have people say he was out of business. He didn't make it. I just did not want to do it. It's a shameful thing for my, for my culture, and I just didn't want to do that. And I just didn't. That was not an option. So failure was not an option. It's like I feel like the Apollo.
That's
failure was not an option. And then 2008, the economy took a hit. And labor was an issue. We have it now, of course, in schools.
Sure.
And the machine are labor intensive. So we said, what can we do that's going to be less labor intensive, that the kids are going to love? And we launched our pouches at the time in 5 ounces. It was first time to go to market with something like that in a slushy, in a pouch. So people were looking at us like this is a novelty and it's an a la carte thing. And not until a wonderful district in Elgin, Illinois, said to me, Frank, the kids love these pouches, but a la carte's not that important to me. I'd rather they eat lunch with us. I said, I'm with you. I'd like to learn more. She goes, what if you made them 4 ounces? You're 1 ounce too many. I'm like, I kind of gained some weight, but 1 ounce too many,
and you liked it for packaging and everything, right? It worked for you. That's right.
It works. So I said, okay, so you're talking about the pouches. Yes, not your way, but the pouches. All right, perfect. So we went to 4 ounce pouches. She said, why don't we do this? Why don't you, what if I bought a truckload from you? I'm like, wow, truckload. At the time, that was a big deal for us. And she said, what if I bought a truckload? What kind of price can you give me? If I can afford it, I'll put you on the menu just to show you.
Right.
The volume
the participation going up, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. So A, her participation went up. B, the same school ended up buying 8 times more than when they did on a la carte. So if you're in business, it's a godsend. Like, okay, these are experiences. If I'm sitting home, I'm not going to learn that. But by being out and about and seeing people, being out in the field, that's how you learn things. So one door opens to another door, opens to another door. And that's how really business, happens. And so we changed everything to 4 ounces, and we became a half a cup of fruit on the line. And today, fast forward all these years later, most of our schools are self-op, not national accounts.
Right.
99% of our schools are. And truckloads is something we do on a daily basis. And trail line is where 98% of our business is today. Less than 2% of our business is a la carte.
Wow.
So we these are the things you learn. And then you fast forward, and we said, okay, now let's get into some farm to school. Let's get into some name branding. Welch's and us hit it off, and we had a great meeting. And they said, we know retail, but you know schools. Mm-hmm. What if you took care of schools for us? And that's where the Welch's partnership started. We met, I think, in 2015. We launched it in 2016. A year later, we were able to launch a vegetable slushy product that tastes like fruit, but it's vegetable with the sweet potato juice. So that also started to become important for us. And you fast forward, we start to get into more farm to school in New York with Welch's. We have a juice cup that's not a slushy, just a regular juice cup. We have one in Texas as well. We have a couple of pouches in New York and Texas that are farm to school for them, also in California. And the goal really going forward is to continue to support our local farmers. Buy American is important to us. It's going to become even more important in the future with everything going on a global level, with all the uncertainty around the country. So that's also front and center for us. But again, you don't get to these things unless you're out there doing it. If I'm in the office saying I'm the CEO, I'm blessed to have, the business I have. I don't need to be out there meeting with Jodi or Beth Wallace in Colorado or, Jamie in Florida and Sandy, exactly, in New Mexico. If you don't do that, you're not, how are you going to support the schools? How are you going to know what the needs are?
And you have to get to the pulse, right? You have to be in that schoolhouse, especially if you want to stay in K-12, and you do. I think that's so important to see that student, right? To see them come through the line. I know we've had the opportunity to be together in a school while we were serving the fruit slushy, right? And seeing the kids coming through, and they're so excited, and they're cheering it on, and they're asking who you are, right? Like, who is he? What's he doing here today?
That was awesome. I love that day.
Right. So I think it's so interesting, and I'd love to even go back. So I love that you talked about, you started with the slushy machine. I was an anti-slushy machine, right? So it's a perfect explanation that you provided, as being this new business, looking at you're going to K-12, you have a slushy machine. In my mind, I used to say, it's too much work. I don't know how to clean it. I don't know how the kids are going to pour it all. It's going to slow down the line. Other districts were doing it perfect.
That's right. That's right.
So I think you just stayed true to who you were, true to who you wanted to serve, and you were able to look past that year or 5 years out to say, if we all have staffing shortages, and we do right now, what do we do to make it easier for the operator?
That's right.
And if it's easier for the operator, it's way easier for the students, right?
That's
they
right.
come through completely
That's
easy.
right.
And I love, so this is my 30th year. We do very little, if any, a la carte sales, right? And I'm often asked, I'm sure viewers are probably saying, why don't you serve a cookie or a chip and there's nothing wrong with them. They're Smart Snack approved.
Yeah.
They are nutrient appropriate for our students, but our focus is on the meal.
That's right.
It should be on the meal 100%. And hearing that, and I didn't know that Cool Tropics was 2% a la carte, and you're really doing, because we do 98%, your 98%, which is the meal, is exactly where we serve.
Exactly.
Cool Tropics.
Exactly. And that's where we go aligned. And, to your point about the labor, when the pandemic hit, that's one thing I love about our industry. So you've been around 30 years. I've been doing this 30 years. One thing I fell in love with the industry on so many levels. We can talk about this at a whole session besides this one about why I love our community. But in particular, when the pandemic hit, our schools shut down on Friday the 13th, 2020. Whether we wanted to or not, our schools opened up on Monday the 16th. Not to have kids in the classroom, that was not the case, but to feed every single one of our kiddo curbside, all over the United States. We were there to feed the kids before FEMA or anyone else is there. I live in Florida now. Hurricane is a big deal for us. When the hurricane hits, the schools have to open the next day and feed the community. All the kids, not just the kids in that school. Anyone 18 years old or younger, they got to feed them. we are there before FEMA or anyone else is there. So I love that about our community. So because we went to the packaging we have, it was easy to have the IW, individually wrapped product, to be put in with the packaging. And we learned from our customers. For example, my friend Monica, a good customer of ours and dear friend of mine in Colorado, she rewrote her HACCP plan to say the slushy pouch is the ice pack to keep our milk cold for the home. We had pictures come from parents when they got the whole weekly box when curbside feeding. The kids opened and the first thing they grabbed was our slushie, and they held it with the biggest smile. Parents are sending us pictures of their kids holding our slushies. They don't even know us. If that doesn't warm your heart to say, okay, we are part of this community, we are part of feeding the kids, then we shouldn't be in this business.
And just think that when all that happened, and I always say there was no playbook, right? There was nothing that said, okay, food service directors across the country, here's what you're going to do. I remember saying to our superintendent, we've got it. Don't worry about it. I said, we're going to put it in a bag just like we do summer meals. You know, we do mobile meals in the summer.
Yeah.
So we were accustomed to that menu. It all worked. It went in the bag. Now, we never did the boxes or multiple because we serve hot meals. In the summer, we served hot meals during the pandemic. So we were doing individual, but it was just, I think it touched everybody's hearts, right? To say we are really part of this community and making a difference without hesitation. And we didn't even know what would happen as you put the bag in the car, right? Like, were we going to, you know, I don't know. Would we come down with something? Would we not? How are they going to get this food home, right? There were so many questions. And we just kept saying, we say to our superintendent, we've got it, don't worry about it. And we did breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack.
That's amazing.
And it was just, I don't know. I think it was nothing short of amazing what we all accomplished. I know in our county alone, we were at like 22 plus million meals during that time of being off. It was crazy. And for you, like even, you know, having the business, how do you scale for that, right? Like, so you were probably accustomed to making, I don't know, I'm making something up, 10 truckloads.
Yeah.
You probably went to 20 truckloads or more, right? Like that's the part. How do you even know how to scale to do that, right?
Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get lucky because, you know, I remember in particular the vegetable product, people needed it. And, you know, it's funny. Our COO, Steve, would say, like, you know, we need this. I'm like, always have a lot more than that. Like, always have 25 or 35 or whatever it is % more. So we actually ended up having a lot more raw materials to begin with by design. So when that happened and people ran out of raw materials, we did not.
You were so fortunate.
We're so blessed, really, at the end of the day. And sometimes you create your own luck too, but luck is good too. You need to have that. So you work hard and you have the luck, it's going to be okay. You know, I look back at my journey, and one thing I am, you know, personally, this is personal to me now, proud of. And, you know, I know my late father, God rest his soul, I know he'll be proud of this too. I lost my dad in December 2017, and I miss him every day. I think of him every day. And, you know, my mom was here. He would say, enjoy the living. And I adore every second we have with her. And I'm just proud that I was able to come to the greatest country on earth. I'll never forget when I became an American citizen. When I became an American citizen, you know when someone wins the lotto, and they have this big check, and they have even a bigger smile on their face, and they're holding the lotto check? For me, becoming an American citizen is like winning the lotto. And what I'm most proud of is that I'm blessed enough to be in business for 30 years and have, thank God, a successful business. That I'm not taken from the system, meaning I'm not taken from our beautiful country. Our beautiful country gave me and my family so much. I'm so proud to put it back into the country, to pay it forward for the next people who's going to come to our country the right way, of course, and be part of our community. And so that I know my dad will be, I know he's not here, but if he's watching, I hope he is. I know he'll be proud of that.
And I think it is your passion to pay it forward, right? And your interest in other individuals starting just like you did. I think that's what's so key, right? There might be people watching saying like, gosh, I really wanted to try to do something and, you know, I was scared. I didn't know if I have the resources. I mean, you drove the car, right, to Long Island saying, I think this is the spot. Yeah. So it really shows. And I think opportunity does present itself. You're so positive, you know, I mean, I think anybody watching, I say it to my own students, we say it all the time to our children, you know, during their years of growth and learning and belonging to a school system and to a friend group and to a family, it's so key, right?
That's right.
To take that with you and then move it forward to that next generation, to the next set of friends. Like I say to my girls all the time, if somebody's struggling, just be there to help them, right? Like, share your stories with them so they can see
That's
it's
right.
all possible.
That's right. In our community, what you do and your staff, you're feeding the kids, we're serving. That's what we do. We serve the community. All of us. We're feeding the kids. We're feeding the future of America. We're feeding that next person who's going to start a business, or who's going to become the food service director, or who's going to become a nurse, or the wonderful folks who are taping, this podcast, and so on and so forth.
Right.
That's who we are feeding. Every single person. I remember inviting Congressman, this is before I moved to Florida, I invited Congressman McGovern to one of his schools for National Lunch Hero Day. This is like 2021. I'm going back, now in time. And he wanted to have a White House conference about ending, food hunger. He wanted to end that. And I said, you and your colleagues did an amazing job when the pandemic hit. You offered businesses that wanted to keep their staff the PPP plan. And the way you did it, it was perfect. You went to banks. You didn't create something that didn't exist before, and there's a bank on every corner. I said, if you are sincere about ending hunger, this is where we met at his school. He went there to have kids lunch with the kids and be with the staff. I said, if you are sincere about ending hunger, there's a school cafeteria on every corner of the United States. You cannot do it without our schools. Don't reinvent the wheel. And sure enough, SNA was invited. Knowing SNA, knowing Kathy and Patty, they're going to get invited anyways. But, this is the guy that was putting the thing together. He's amazing. He's amazing about feeding kids. And so I miss him now because I'm in Florida. But he's anyone that wants to feed the kids and make sure the kids are being fed. We are the United States of America. No kid should go hungry, ever. Not in this wonderful country.
Right. And I think we say it all the time. Hearing it from you, I think it just really, it's the icing on the cake. We're open everywhere, right? So we're serving, we always say we fuel our students all year long. So when the bell rings and they all leave and everybody says they're going to be hungry, we're like, call us, look for the school meals site that's open all summer long, right? We're here. We already have systems in place. We know how to do it with our manufacturers and with our brokers and with our distribution channels. It's there. Nobody has to create anything. And I'm on a lot of the food councils in Anne Arundel County. I say it all the time. Come to us. We're here. We're ready. We want to be able to serve students, and especially in the summer, 2 to 18 years old. So
that's right.
It's a great place to be. It's a great story as always, Frank. And I appreciate all you do. It's amazing. Keep it up. I can't wait to see what Cool Tropics can do in the next 10 years.
Thank you so much. And we'll be here to tell the story.
Very good.
Thank you so much, Jodi.
As you can see, Cool Tropics is a key partner with key successes across the country, really looking at fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, pureed and into this delicious slushy to really make a difference for the students they serve. All districts across the country, anybody watching today, look at Frank. Take his story of the American dream and how it worked for him, his company, his family, and how it works for all of us in school districts. If you have any questions about the school meals program, please call me at 410-222-5900. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on Food for Thought.